Hello my friends, today we're going to be reading about the terracotta sculpture and pottery of Africa. Working with clay is an additive approach to sculpture since forms are built by adding more and more clay and modeling the form with fingers and tools. And it shows figure 24, so we're going to look at that real quick. Figure 24 shows a Gabaya potter from Cameroon, which has added coil or clay to the top of the pot and is flattening and smoothing it into existing clay. Alright. Modeling is a more forgiving art than carving because corrections can continue until the material hardens. Although unbaked clay can be molded into a variety of forms, heavy rain will turn an unprotected figure back into soil. In order for clay pots or sculpture to become permanent, they must be fired or baked. In Africa, this means they are placed in an outdoor pit after sun drying, usually with a group of similar pieces. Light brush is positioned around the works and firewood is stacked over the whole and set alight, burning throughout the night. Nice little rhyme there. After firing, works are referred to as terracotta pots or sculptures. They retain their earthen color, but this can be altered by swishing them in a variety of hot liquids impregnated with Africa. So apparently I missed a part of that sentence which was on the same page but at the top of the page. So let's try that again, shall we? After firing, works are referred to as terracotta pots or sculptures. They retain their earthen color, but this can be altered by swishing them in a variety of hot liquids impregnated with bark or other vegetable matter by coating them with white kaolin clay or paint, or through long exposure to smoke. After firing, a piece may break, but it's permanently fixed. In almost all of Africa, women are the potters. Often this is not just a personal enterprise, but a group endeavor in villages that specialize in this art form. People use domestic containers for water, cooking, and storage, as well as incense burners, pipes, and other objects. Now, before we go too much further, let's actually look at these images. Alright, so in figure 25 we can see another clay pot. It says, when the clay is leather hard, the potters use a variety of tools to incise lines and dots. The pots are darkened by being in a smoky environment. The artists also added ridges and relief elements at this time. Detail of a pot made by a Nupe woman, Nigeria, 20th century. Figure 26 says, this ritual pot, made by the Igbo potter Onegi, shows greater elaboration than domestic ware, as well as figurative elements. Igbo, Nigeria, probably 1970s. Figure 27, this terracotta memorial head represents an Akan royal and was made by a female artist from Twifo Hemen region of Ghana's Ashanti Empire in the 1800s. And yeah, it's a very elaborate sculpture. I also just want to point out that, and I pointed this out in a previous video, that this is a really interesting piece right here. All the images are somewhat low res on this document, so it's not the video, it's just how the document is. Here we have an Ife piece. This 11th to 15th century terracotta head from Ife, Nigeria, was probably made by a Yoruba male artist who was also a brass caster. Alright, now that we've looked at those images, let's continue with our reading. Although imported goods and local plastics have intruded on their sales, potters still have a healthy market. Some terracottas are meant for shrine use, and these frequently have more elaborate and sometimes figurative decoration, figure 26, which we looked at. A few cultures are exceptions to the female potter rule. Hausa men make pots, and there are both male and female potters among the Congo, Dogon, Mossi, and in the Cameroon grass fields. Terracotta sculpture can be made by men or women, depending on the area. Akan women, for example, are known to have created terracotta figures, while Edo men made terracotta heads in the Benin Kingdom. While we cannot be sure which gender made the Nok terracottas from Nigeria, the oldest extant sculpture south of the Sahara, or much later Bura terracotta figures and heads from Niger, it seems likely that men made terracotta sculptures in those cultures with brass casters, since they first model in clay and wax before casting their forms. This is pretty interesting. I want to stop here for a second because another book of mine, which it's not all that old, but it is older than this book, so that might be the reason. But another book of mine called The Early Art and Architecture of Africa by Peter Garlake said in its book that the Nok were very likely made by women, and it kind of had this narrative of that only women were potters, whereas this book, which I believe is some years newer, so therefore may have more up-to-date research, actually states that some men were in fact potters. So this is a interesting new information for me to learn, because keep in mind, I haven't read this book yet. Me and you, we're learning together from this book. So yeah, this is a very neat insight, and I hope to learn some more stuff that I hadn't known about before while we continue to read together. Alright, let's get back to the text. Whether pots or figures, objects made from clay have to dry thoroughly before firing, since any moisture trapped within will expand and cause the object to explode. For this reason, larger clay figures have to be hollow in order to maximize drying. Traditional African pottery is fired in the open at relatively low temperatures, not in a kiln. In sub-Saharan Africa, unlike Asia or the West, the pottery wheel is not used, nor are glazes applied. Thermoluminescence, or TL dating, dates terracotta just as it does the fired clay core that remains in some metal castings. And let's scroll down. Dating pottery was the primary reason for the scientific technique's development. Alright, and as you can see, it moves on to architecture from there, which is why we've been seeing some buildings over here on this page. And we will talk about African architecture, that part we'll leave it for a separate video, because it just makes sense to do that. Now, as some of you may know, the first time we read this book, it was during a live stream. We may do some more live streams. I do actually want to do more live streams, but for the time being, I decided to do these as little sections in pre-recorded videos, just because lately I've been very low energy, and I just want to keep things simple for now. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's reading, and yeah, that's about it, folks.